Welcome to Johnny's Car Care and Reviews. I'm your host, Johnny, and this is your co-host, Winston. So people are really fired up, some are really upset, and well, it's all about the latest Ford email. Now, I'm going to work through all of this because people have reason to be worked up. There are issues at hand. For example, the painted tops. They had already been pushed to 2022, and now they're being pushed back an extra year to 2023. Now, some are angry that they think Broncos are not available for the next 2.5 years, while others are upset that, well, they think dealers will have inventory before they receive their reserved and ordered Broncos. There's some truth to that, but a lot of the frustrations I think are misplaced. So I want to cover all that to try to be as helpful as possible. Another thorn in the side are the touring Broncos. Those are the Broncos at off-rodeo. Those are the Broncos that journalists are getting. And of course, they're also the dealer demos. Now, dealer demos and touring Broncos aren't the same, so I'm going to jump into all that. What does it mean? How does it affect us? And finally, I'm going to cover if, the squeaky wheel gets the oil or not. Because there has been a rumor going around that, if you're publicly nice, you're going to get on Santa's good list and you're going to get a Bronco sooner. And if, you're bashing, then you're not going to get your Bronco. So I'll cover if the squeaky wheel does actually get the oil or not, if it makes a difference, what's going on there. And finally, I'm going to cover... So yes, I will cover, simply put, if publicly complaining helps get you a Bronco sooner or if it gets you your Bronco later. So I'm going to cover actually a whole section in this video on what complaining has done and what complaining will do. What's the effect of it really? So of course, I'm going to have to explain all about how dealer allotments work. And a lot of this I've been covering for the last 6 months. But I really feel that, with the level of frustration that's out there, I really feel like I got to repeat myself and I've got to recover this to make sure that, people are as comfortable and I'm as helpful as I possibly can be. So I want people to be happy when it's, the right time to be happy. And I want people to, it's okay to be frustrated at times when it makes sense. Some of this makes sense and some of the frustrations really don't make sense. So I'm going to help put to rest a lot of questions, a lot of anxiety. You could say there's some Bronco anxiety going around. So this video is all about resolving this. Like I said, I want to be as helpful as possible. And there is some good news in all of this. Actually, there's some really good news in all of this. And that has to do with something that we've all been asking for about the last 2 months. Okay, so let's start with some of the bad news. And I get the frustration going around with the bad news. And I get how easy it is to cover the bad news and to get worked up about it. I've been waiting for a plug-in Escape. Heck, I thought it was going to get in last November or December. So I really thought I ordered one back last September 2020. I thought it would come in November or December. So Mary ended up driving my F-150 all winter long, and I ended up driving a Mercury Marauder all winter long. And then I thought it'd come in the spring, so I sold the truck, and well, it still didn't get delivered. And I'm still waiting for that plug-in Escape, but finally good news about plug-in Escapes is that they should be getting built. The factory is going to get fired up in July and August, so we'll start seeing some of those plug-in Escapes. But, I'd rather have a plug-in Escape that works and a plug-in Escape that doesn't catch fire than to have my plug-in Escape a few months earlier. And I know there's frustrations because some people are at the end of their leases, so they've gone from 2 vehicles down to 1 vehicle. But that's why I want to cover thoroughly the whole email, what it means, what's new, and help give you an idea when you're going to get your Bronco. And that all ties down not so much about when your reservation stamp is, but about your dealer's allotment. So it's all about information. And unfortunately, some dealers have not been, of course, they've got so many clients, they can't reach out to everybody, and that's been a point of frustration, and I completely get it. But, there's some onus that, we all have to take a bit of responsibility, and, I encourage everyone to call up your dealer, and I'm going to explain to you what questions to ask so you can basically figure out when your build date is going to be, and I'm going to help you out by using my own personal case and what I'm seeing with my own dealer's allotments to really kind of give you an idea of give or take within a month or two when you should be getting built. Now, some of this is hard science, some of it is not. There's no luck involved in it because it does come down to those hard tops. But before I get into that, let's cover a bit of the bad. So the bad news, let's put the pedal to the metal and jump right in. So the actual bad news, and the part to really be disappointed about, is that anyone who wanted a black top or a painted white top is, it's only been a few weeks, the wound's still fresh. We got told, we'd be getting those in 2022, and now it turns out we're going to be getting those in 2023. And no white top, what that really means is, looks like no heritage edition. However, part of that email, there was good news. There are going to be new colors. You will be getting the green. You'll be getting the yellow and the orange. So I'll get into that into that. So the good news, we are going to have that green. We're going to have a few other new colors. So I'll be getting into those exact colors and showing you examples in upcoming videos. But there's a bit more good news behind this email as well. It's not even a bit of good news. It's fantastic news. I remember, when we first started having this hard top fiasco, and let me put this very clear because people are still, I read it on Facebook, I read it in the comments, they say, hey, there's only an issue with these painted tops. No, it's all hard tops. All hard tops are an issue. And when they first encountered some delays, they said, well, you know what, there's going to be delays, so we're going to give you the sound deadening headliner free of charge. So that was Ford's way of first dealing with, our frustrations and our complaining. And there's a good time to complain, and there's been some really positive results out of this complaining, because in the last email, something that people really seem to be ignoring is we've been asking for the wiring for the soft top for the last 2 months. And I've read it in all sorts of comments. I've said it myself. I'd say, look, I'm going to be thrilled, and I won't have any complaints if I get without charge the wiring for the back. So that's the wiring for the heated window, wiring for the wiper, and of course the plumbing. So, plumbing and electrical. And Ford in the email is saying you're getting it for free if you're built in September. Now, of course, there's been some frustrations of, well, what if I'm built in July or August? I don't get that for free. Well, no, because you're not being paid for your patience. If you're getting your Bronco before most everyone else, you don't get the bonus for having your Bronco being later than expected. And I think a big part of this and a big part of the problem have been expectations. I think there hasn't been enough communication between dealers and the clients. And, maybe this has to do with the fact that a lot of these sales, pretty much all the Bronco sales were made over an online reservation forum. Dealers at one point, they received, let's say, anywhere from 10 all the way to 700 reservations all in one shot, And then at this point, did they distribute them to all the salespeople? Has there been an actual relationship built between, the customer, the paying customer, that, we're paying customers? I don't think the Tesla model of taking reservations and selling online is the right model for good customer service. And I think this whole, people are calling it Bronco Gate, and I don't think it's as bad as some make it out to be, and I don't think it's as peachy and rosy as others would like us to think. I'm looking at this as much from a scientific analytical standpoint. I'm just trying to collect the facts, and what I can tell in all of this is that a major issue is communication. So a dealer with a good sales staff, sales consultants, you don't just want salespeople, you want sales consultants who are there to consult. It should be in their title, and it needs to be part of the role that you can consult with them and check in and say, hey, what's going on with my Bronco? Where am I at in the allotment list? Is it worth switching to a soft top? Because for some people, it's not going to be worth switching to a soft top. So let me quickly get into this whole allotment confusion. Broncos are going to be spread across Canada and the US. They're not just going to be sold to one area, and I've been saying this since last January, and back in January people were telling me that I'm a moron, that I don't know how it works. I'm at the dealer. I've got a special relationship and I have access to information, and I can tell you, and I've been saying it since January, these Broncos are going to be sold out. It's not just about reservation timestamp. If it was the case, a few major cities in the US would have picked up the entire production build for 2021. All 50 to 60,000 Broncos that are going to get built would have been sold to a few major city centers, and no one would have actually been able to see a Bronco in the flesh, up close and personal. And not having Broncos, by the way, kind of spread out across Canada and the US would suck. It wouldn't be, well, maybe it would still be well known because of all the hype and all the promotional videos that have gone down for the Bronco, but it would face a bit more the fate that the Ford Ranger Electric lived in the 90s. Ford made electric Rangers for 3 years and basically nobody knows about it. Why? Because they only went to a few city centers. They're commercial leases, and after 3 years, Ford took them off the road. Clearly, this was an experimental learning experience, and this isn't what we want for our Broncos. So if you're one of those people that's saying, hey, all the timestamps should get their Broncos before anyone else, despite what your actual build order is, you don't really know what you're asking for, because what you're asking for is the factory to make Broncos, and then soon as Webasto doesn't have a hardtop available, because they're only producing 40 to 100 a day, and Ford can build between, right now, 300 Broncos a day, and it's probably going to get kicked up near the end of the year to 1,000 Broncos a day. So do you want the Ford factory to really stop and say, hey, no more hardtops, okay, everyone go home, come back next week when we get delivered our week's supply of hardtops? We're going to get delivered whether it's 140 a day, whether it's 200 to 400 hardtops, run the factory for 1 day and then close it for the next 6. No, that doesn't make any sense. That means if what you're asking for is that all the reservation timestamp holders get their Broncos before anyone else, you're literally asking the Bronco factory to work 1 day a week. And this is where people are the most upset about the latest email. The latest email, let's just, point out, it does say that, your neighbor might be driving a Bronco before you, even though he wasn't a reservation holder. Now, there's some truth to that, but I think it was poorly explained. And I'll go back to the allotments. If your dealer gets 20 allotments for the year and they sold 60 2021s, no one there is going to be picking up at that dealer in your area, your dealer that sold 3 times more their 2021 allotments. Guess what? You're not going to see your neighbor driving a Bronco who didn't have a reservation holder, unless the first 20 people are all really stuck on the idea that they want a black hardtop, in which case, then yeah, the list will continue to push up. And if, let's say, all 60 people who had a reservation, they all want a black hardtop, well, then none of them are going to get produced until 2023. And then the dealer would have 20. All their allotments for that year would be stock. It'd be inventory. And then, yes, on that unimaginable scenario, your neighbor would be running a Bronco 2 years before you, even though he or she didn't have a reservation, nor a time stamp, nor an order. Now, I can understand that this part of the email frustrated people. I lived through it. I was hard stuck on my hardtop when I knew I should switch, and I took, I was 2 weeks too late switching my hardtop, and someone who bought in March, mid-March, March 15th, their soft top passed right in front of mine. So they have a soft top black diamond, and their order just went way ahead of mine. And they passed actually a good number of people, but the people that they passed are hard top owners. And this is where this whole online reservation and buying online situation sucks. It doesn't work very well, and we're seeing it go down right now, because in an ideal world, this wouldn't happen at all. You'd have a good relationship with your sales consultant. You'd feel really comfortable calling them up and saying, hey, I got this email saying that I should maybe switch to a soft top and a 2.3 liter and no hitch and no Lux package. What can I do? And then your salesman would go look on the list that's available to him and say, well, you know what? We're getting 20 allotments and you're number 19. Well, if you're number 19 and you're sticking to your hardtop, guess what? You're guaranteed not getting a 2021 Bronco. You're going to get pushed out of the way, especially when, of course, they can also tell how many hardtops are in front of you versus how many soft tops are behind you. Because basically what's going to happen is the Ford factory is going to be building 300 to one day, not too far in the future, 1,000 Broncos a day. And Webasto is going to be providing 40 to 100 hardtops to the factory. And the factory's not going to stop just because they don't have a hardtop. They're not going to build on Monday and send everyone home for the rest of the week because they don't have any hardtops. They're going to pass people on the list who are outside of the 20. So maybe they'll take, at first they'll take number 21, 22, and later they're going to be pulling people who are, 40th on the list and passing them ahead of this number 19 allotment. And all number 19 had to do is know that if they switch to a soft top, then they're getting their 2021 Bronco. And if they really want to play it safe, well, follow all the deadly sins and take a 2.3. But I don't believe that, because my news for this week, my personal news, is I'm pretty sure my Bronco is going to get picked up this week. I have a 2.7 liter Badlands, and I took the hitch off because I can add that later, so it has no bearing and effect on me. But I want to put as much on my side, as I can without removing what I just can't live without. Because the deadly sins, and the new email does say, try to avoid Badlands, Wild Track, Lux Package, 2.7 liter. Well, I don't want to live without the 2.7 liter, and I don't want to live without the Badlands for all sorts of reasons that I covered in my last video. So it all comes down to that relationship that needs to be formed between the customer, who deserves to have good service, who deserves to have the real deal explained to them, and the sales consultant. Now, there's a whole lot of frustration about these dealers getting inventory. The only dealers that are going to get inventory are dealers that got, for example, 2021 allotments, and they only have, let's say 17 or 18 reservations. Then yeah, they might get one or two vehicles for stock. But here's the thing. I think the next thing we should be asking for, and maybe you can hashtag Ford for this, because I don't think it's unreasonable at all to, ask Ford that if you have a reservation and your dealer happens to get a Bronco in stock, either because of a canceled order or because they didn't fill all their allotments. Now, you're gonna have trouble believing me on this, because a lot of dealers doubled and tripled their allotments for 2021. But some dealers, very few, but some rare dealers didn't actually fill their whole 2021 allotment list. So it's not going to be, if you're not getting your Bronco at your local dealer and you have put the soft top on, you're not going to see someone else rolling down the street in a Bronco who didn't have a reservation. But if you haven't put the soft top on, then yes, you might actually see someone rolling a Bronco who never had a reservation. Someone who, ordered past March 15th. But if you do put the soft top on, Ford is giving you, right in the email, they're giving you the recipe. Really, if you don't want to be stressed at all, take a 2.3 liter, take the hitch off, don't take a Wild Track, don't take a Badlands, and put the soft top on, and you're in business. If your dealer is way above their allotment list, they got way more reservations than they're actually going to get Broncos for 2021. First thing you need to know, are you within their allotments allowed? If it's 20, if it's 40, whatever it may be, if it's 100, do you fall within the parameters to possibly get a 2021 Bronco? If you're near the end of the list, I'd say, here's my advice. Put everything in your favor. If you can handle it, take a 2.3 liter, avoid the Wild Track, avoid the Badlands, and put on the soft top. Now, if you're more towards the middle to beginning of the list, well, you can get away with a little more, like I have. I'm about out of 24, 25 allotments. I'm about number 8 to 10. I feel like I can allow the 2.7 liter to stay, because even if they have a number of 2.7 liters for the year, well, I'm not nearly as worried because I'll get my 2.7 liter before someone who is number, the last number on the allotment list or the last 4 or 5. Now they have more risk to be kind of, you could say, pushed aside by someone who's further on the list than them, but who has a buildable Bronco. So it's all about making your Bronco as buildable as possible, depending on the probabilities. So if you're number 1 to 5 on a list of a dealer that has 25, or even better, a dealer that's getting 100 Broncos for 2021, and you're in the top 10, heck, leave your Bronco exactly the way you dream of having your Bronco. Leave the hardtop on. You're gonna get it. But what I can tell you is already it looks like all the Broncos that have hard tops that are going to get built for this year, I'm highly suspecting, so I'm 99% sure about this, that they've all been selected and they've all been given dates. So all the Broncos in the system currently that have build dates, those are so all of those hard tops that Ford's going to get, they've assigned for the year. Ford did give bad news last week with that email. So I'm thinking this week or next week at the absolute latest, they're going to fill up the rest of August. Now, some of August has been assigned, and that assignment was due to, that email about 4 or 5 weeks ago where a whole lot of people got July 30th as a build date, and then some moved a little sooner, a whole bunch moved a little later, and then they moved back sooner again in some cases. And then I've got, one build on my list that they're now, originally they're in June, then they fell into July, then they went into August, they went back into July, and now it looks dead firm. They're going to be built August 16th. But guess what? Why has this been jumping around all over the place? And I've confirmed this with other people leaving comments on Facebook. This, of course, is a hard top. They're having a real hard time knowing how many hard tops they're going to get. It looks like Webasto's the type of company that one week says, you know what, we're going to build 40. And then next week they're saying, you know what, it's going to be 60 as of this date. And they're kind of, they're kind of going with the flow, going with the wind, and with what that week offers them. Because of course, let's have a bit of, somewhat compassion for them. They're probably being made promises on their end on how much plastic they're going to get. And then, the week after, it's, hey, sorry, you're not going to get that plastic. If I think of my father, he's actually having a garage built. And with his garage, heck, he's been getting promised of having his foundation built now for over a month, because every week it's, well, we'll have the cement next week. We've been promised we'll have the cement next week. And then the week after, well, the producer of the cement tells the foundation company, sorry, you're only getting this much cement or no cement. So he doesn't get his foundation built. Well, suppliers like Webasto are facing the same thing, but with plastic. This is what Ford, I think, needs to do to, put everyone at ease. I think they need to guarantee that if you're a reservation holder and you do happen to find a Bronco, let's say within your area, within 2-3 hours of where you live, and it's available, and that dealer is asking $10,000 more for their Bronco because, heck, it's a rare piece of machinery, I think Ford should guarantee that they will make sure that that client, they say they want that Bronco and they have an early reservation, so, first few weeks, first few months, whatever they decide. But if you're a reservation, ideally, just period, if you're a reservation holder before March 15th, the original cutoff, and you see a Bronco, that you should be able to get that Bronco without markup. And here's something else. You really want to be worked up? You want to be fired up? Here's something to be fired up about. Dealers asking $10,000 more, when in a whole lot of cases, their Broncos were handed to them on not exactly a silver platter, because this hasn't been pleasant for them either, but they just got given clients. And there's no reason for them to be asking $10,000 more for a Bronco. So if you're fired up and you're worked up about this, heck, call Ford's customer service and ask about switching to another dealer. If you see your dealer asking $10,000 over MSRP for a Bronco, easy. You should be able to switch your reservation somewhere else. And speaking of reservations, some people have been getting real worked up saying the deposit is non-refundable. Now, I don't know about this. I don't know about the legality of this, and I don't even know if this is really Ford's policy. I don't see how that $100 deposit wouldn't be refundable. But I do see how it can be frustrating. But I think if we use a bit of memory, we've seen a lot worse. We've seen deposits for vehicles that never will ever get built. If you think of certain electric companies that have been taking up deposits for certain models, well, sometimes those models take 3 years, 4 years to build, and sometimes they just never get built at all. It was just an idea in the wind. So, I'm hoping that Ford does offer to refund the $100 for people that are tired of waiting. But at the same time, we knew since early this year that Broncos would start arriving. We got told fairly early on that Broncos would start arriving this summer. And for the most part, they will arrive this summer. But so taking a bit of ownership on this, we have to take a bit of ownership over certain things, and expecting to get your Bronco within the first week or the first month, just because you ordered within the first day, week, or month, and I say order, but I should say reserved. If you ordered within, the first day, week, or month, I don't understand why when Ford announced only about a month or two in that they had 195,000 reservations, that you'd automatically think, hey, I'm definitely getting my Bronco right at the beginning. I think the right thing to do was to think, hey, if I was within the first 5 minutes, I'm probably getting a Bronco in the first week that customers get Broncos. And, customers getting Broncos, there has been a lot of frustration. I'd said I'd cover this, and here I go. Dealer demos. Now, some people are really upset that dealers are going to get demos. Now in Canada, that's a little over 300 dealers, so that's 300 Broncos, which will be for sale 6 months after they've arrived on lots. And those are actually sellable Broncos because they're real Broncos made, once the factory was running and all the tools were worked out. All the kinks at the factory were worked out. So they're real Broncos with real VINs. But journalists getting Broncos, what we can call touring Broncos, and the Broncos at Bronco Rodeo. Some of those Broncos are Broncos that will never be sold to the public because you can say they're not VIN Broncos. They're not Broncos that were made once the factory was fine-tuned, and also once all the kinks and errors had been worked out with the suppliers. So assembly in Michigan, not all kinks worked out. Ford doesn't want these sold to people. And you've got famous YouTubers, really famous YouTubers, let's say even Scotty, one of my favorite YouTubers, who is really upset that 10 months ago he didn't get to drive the Bronco. Of course Ford's not going to let you drive a Bronco and it doesn't matter what company you are. You're not going to have your untested vehicle getting driven around by journalists who basically are often getting paid to find problems with things. So you don't go to, the person who's probably the most apt and the most qualified at finding issues, problems, and quirks in a product and say, hey, here's the keys to something we kind of built halfway between a prototype and something built off the assembly line. We're still experimenting with what works. We're still fine-tuning the machines. Ford knows that those touring Broncos often aren't perfect, and that's why they don't want you driving them. And actually, to such a point, at one point, one of the Broncos, the yellow one that was going around, didn't even have an engine in it. Often the interiors of the vehicles, there's buttons, it's got look, but nothing's lit up. The buttons don't work. You can't hand that to a journalist and say, go have fun and trash it. You're just going to ruin the whole, not just the launch of a product, but you're going to kill the product dead in the water. It's more than just shooting yourself in the foot. It's shooting a hole in your boat when you're in the middle of the ocean. You're going to drown the product. It's never going to be a success. After 1 year, you'll have to shut it down and have lost, hundreds of millions of dollars. And back to the $100 deposit. Some people are taking this as if Ford is making a ton of money off of this. But if you think about 195,000 reservations at $100 a piece, they're not making a ton off of this. So as much as I think that it should be refundable, just out of principle, because it's the right thing to do, I don't think the way to look at it is to think that Ford is funding and paying the Bronco off these $100 reservations. What's going to fund the Bronco is selling the Bronco when they must, I'm assuming, I have no insider intel on this, but I'm assuming they must make, $3,000 to $6,000 a Bronco when they sell it. And that's what's going to make them the money. It's a whole lot more than $100, so it's in their interest to deliver these Broncos. They're not picking and choosing who get these Broncos. So one comment that I absolutely loved, I thought it was hilarious. And I don't know if they were saying it seriously or to make us laugh, but it was saying, that Broncos would be going out to the people that would best represent the model, the first few months, basically. And maybe even the entire first year. There's no naughty or nice list at Ford. So whether you're complaining a whole lot on the internet, some people think, hey, I'll complain a ton and the squeaky wheel will get the oil. That's not going to help you get your Bronco sooner. What it has helped achieve is getting sound deadening headliner in the hardtop because of original perceived delays with the hardtop. And now Ford knows that, hey, really the solution to move things forward is to get people into a soft top. And, a lot of us on the internet complained and said, we wanted the oil for the wheel, so we squeaked and we said, we'd go to a soft top if we get all the wiring and the plumbing to the back. And now Ford's giving us that wiring and the plumbing. So for the most part, the email they sent out is pretty good news. Now, the fact that people are taking it really poorly might help Ford send out and fill up August as a build month. But keep in mind, when you fill up a month for, buildable Broncos, but you're not absolutely certain what your numbers are going to be getting into the factory, that is what causes models to be bouncing all over the place, to go from June to July to August, back to July, and then back to August. And originally, when the individual was in August, it was August 15th, and now it's August 16th. But that's probably because now Ford has a really good, solid idea of what kind of supplies they're going to be getting, what kind of parts they're going to be getting at the Michigan assembly plant. Okay, now covering those dealer demos. Would you prefer, when you order something, to have no idea really its size, its dimensions, what it's going to look like in real life, and therefore, Ford doesn't send 300 demos to Canadian dealers and about 3,000 demos to American dealers? Keep in mind, Ford at one point is going to be pushing out 1,000 Broncos a day. So it's 3 days worth of production for the US, and currently they're doing a little over 300 per day. So it's a day of production to deliver for Canada their dealer demos. And we've known about this for months. So to be really frustrated about this now, either you haven't been following along, which is fine, that's normal. We don't all have just Broncos to think about, dream about, and lose sleep over, and that's fine. But if you've been following since January or even earlier, and I've been doing these videos since January, and it was pretty early on, I was saying, May, the whole month of May was to be dealer demos and touring Broncos. And the first touring Broncos in early May wouldn't be Broncos that would ever get sold, because they're fine-tuning the plant and they know they're going to build these Broncos not so well, that they'll be far from perfect. And, the dealer demos would be the very last vehicles, and that's when they're pretty darn sure, they're 99.9% sure that everything on the assembly line is going just perfect, just right, everything's fixed up. Then they make their dealer demos last, and then they move on to customers' Broncos. But we've known this for months, so there's no news there. There has been some delay because we did expect customers' Broncos to start getting built in early June, and early June ended up being more, the first week of early June ended up being more for dealer demos, and all the touring Broncos that won't get sold, and Bronco Bronco off-road gosh, I do not like the name. But the off-road Bronco event, those were built back in May. They basically played around, figured things out. Well, building Broncos that aren't going to be perfect, aren't sold to the public. So, you know, and the same goes for the hardtops. Yeah, there are some hardtop Broncos at these events, and they could have saved those tops. But guess what? Webasto, their factory, was working out their kinks and their problems too. So this is why those Broncos will never get sold. And this is why, honestly, on this point, it's not a frustrating point. It's not an issue. And, you know, we got to kind of move on. And on this one, you know, let the wine go in the mouth instead of having the whining come out of the mouth. But I do love, when it comes to the whining, how some of it has been really helpful, you know? The sound deadening headliner in the hard tops, the 200,000 Ford Pass rewards, which is worth $1,000. And now, you know, the big one for me, because I'm getting a soft top. I switched back, I believe, very early June, and I should have done it in May. But I switched to the soft top, and now I'm going to get the plumbing, unless I get the news that I'm going to get built in August, which, if so, hey, I got to take it with a grain of salt. I'll get my Bronco, you know, maybe a month or two earlier than I otherwise would, so I won't get the plumbing. But if that does happen to you and it does bother you, here's a trick. This isn't going to move you around in line. It will get people who are behind you to move in front of you on that allotment list. But you could switch your order back to a hard top, or leave it so if you switch to a soft top and you get, let's say, put in the month of August, and you really want all that plumbing, just switch back to a hard top. They'll build other soft tops. You know, for example, at a dealer that has 25 allotments for the year, they're going to build, my local dealer, 3 Broncos in August. So 3 people are getting Broncos assigned in August. And in September, 4 Broncos are going to be assigned to people. So if I really want all the plumbing in September, which I'm more concerned about getting a Bronco for the channel as soon as possible. But let's say if I did, or if I change my mind, I say, you know what, I'll have Bronco reviews and Bronco off-roading action 1 month behind, or 2-3 weeks behind. So even better, if I get the 28th of August as a build date, I'm just going to put myself a hardtop for a week or 2, let my dealer let me know, hey, you know, August got filled up as of now, and then switch back to a soft top, and then I'll get picked and put down for the month of September. Because with your timestamp and where you are on your dealer's allotment list, if you have an unbuildable Bronco, well, you could say you're kind of like off the list. So let's picture the list as a solid column. Well, you're off the list. And every month when they pick up, you know, 3, we're at really big dealers that are getting 100 Broncos for the year instead of 25. Well, 4 times as many. So 12 Broncos get picked up. Well, they'll pick up those 12 Broncos, and the list goes down because they're no longer on the list. They're getting built. They're over here. And you're still sitting over here. Well, as soon as you have a buildable Bronco, you just go right in where you should have been. So if the list is down to, you know, if you're originally with a buildable Bronco, you would have already been built. Well, as soon as you have a buildable Bronco, you go right ahead of that list and you're in the next selection to get built. So I really hope this has been useful. I know it's been a lot of allotment talk. And I hope it hasn't been clear. Well, I'll clear it up in the comments section. And, you know, I've really been finding it really helpful. We've got some users like M. Peugeot and several other users. You know who you are. You've been super helpful in the comments section. You're really treating this like a community where we're here to help each other out, get through this Bronco anxiety, deal with the crap. And, you know, this video was all about helping us deal with the crap, because a lot of this stuff is easy to get frustrated over, but when you think about it, some of it is a lot less frustrating when you look at the facts, and some of it stays frustrating. But when it stays frustrating, the goal isn't to stay frustrated, it's to, you know, get things settled, get things fixed, and that's what I'm here for. I want to be here to help you out. I want to be your fixer, and I've got some great great associates helping in the comment section, helping us all fix our Bronco issues. And, part of that is actually picking out the right Bronco, because it's still not too late. If you don't have a VIN number, it's not going to affect where you are in the list to make a change. So whether, you throw on, you change to a different model, the only thing that's really going to affect you is if you take one of the options that is, that we're being told will probably put you, well, make your Bronco less buildable because they have less parts for. So, the fact that it's Badlands, Wild Track, Sasquatch, basically looks like if, Bilstein shocks might be a bit of an issue, but not too much of an issue. And we'll know when I get picked up this week or next, I'll let you know. And then we'll know, hey, a guy who's number 8 to 10 on the list, and I'll try to find out exactly where I'm at, because it all comes down to some very close dates and times. But let's say I'm 8 out of 25. Well, it lets you know if you're, on the first half of the allotment list, you can probably get away with having a Badlands. And I hope that'll get this news to you as soon as I had, analyzed and reviewed everything, as soon as I could actually, be helpful. I don't want to just create a video for the sake of creating a video. I want to create a video when I can say I can actually help or resolve a situation. But today, the house is in the 30 degrees Celsius, so that's like something like 88 Fahrenheit, 90 degrees Fahrenheit. It is ridiculously hot and humid. We're going through a heat wave, so excuse me for my appearance, but I want to get this useful information to you to help you out. And if you feel that I've earned a like and a subscribe, please help me out. The like and subscribe will be greatly appreciated. It helps feed a poodle, and well, it's going to help me replace parts on the Bronco that I'm certainly going to make some off-roading mistakes, but you'll be along hopefully for the ride to see what those mistakes look like, so you don't make them when you get your Bronco. Once again, I want to be helpful. Winston's signing off. He's just off to the other side of the office, and I'm signing off, wishing you all more cars and more power, and I hope this week you get the chance to put the pedal to the metal.